It's a big weekend for Texas Tech, not only on the gridiron down in Houston, but also on the recruiting trail. And in today's video, we'll give you the latest on the class of 2026 for Texas Tech and where does five-star offensive lineman Felix Ojo now rank in the class of 2026. Not to mention, Texas Tech, are they the number one class in the Big 12 for 2026? That, as well as, it's a big weekend for Texas Tech from a commitment standpoint in the 2027 class, as five-star defensive lineman Jalen Brewster is set to announce his commitment. Where do things currently stand? We'll discuss that and more in today's video. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Red and Black Report. Appreciate y'all tuning in to today's video. Had a lot of content for the Houston game here on the channel, so be sure to go check that out. But today's video will strictly be about recruiting. There is a ton to discuss because there was a moment in time on the 247 website yesterday that Felix Ojo was the number one player in the class, which was interesting. They're obviously fluid in terms of the rankings and everything. We'll see where he ended up now. We'll also take a look at On 3, where does Texas Tech rank on their website in terms of the class of 2026. And then we'll look at Jalen Brewster, a guy that has been linked to Texas Tech, but we'll discuss the latest in terms of his commitment date set for October 4th. This video is being released on Friday, October 3rd. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the class of 2026. You see it on your screen right there. This is from 247 Sports. Inside the Red Raiders is what their Texas Tech website is called. Texas Tech has the 23rd overall class in the class of 2026. Texas Tech is actually second in the Big 12 behind BYU, according to 247 Sports. Same for On 3. But Felix Ojo is the sixth ranked player in the class, the number one overall player at the offensive tackle spot, and the second overall player in the state of Texas for the 2026 class. You see Bryce Gilmore, the recent flip. Well, I shouldn't say flip. Technically, he did decommit from Arkansas, but recent addition to the class of 2026 in Bryce Gilmore, a guy that's 6'5", 300 pounds. He ranks as a 110th overall player and the 10th overall offensive tackle in the class. So you land, if you're Texas Tech, two of the top 10 offensive tackles in the class. Pretty big deal. And then obviously you got Chase Campbell, who's just lighting it up out there at Friendship in the 806, and he's a top 155 player. There's multiple other guys in the top 300, but that's what we wanted to look at 247. Now, we move on over to On 3, and this is where things get interesting for Texas Tech from the standpoint of you can see a little bit more in depth where other sites have Texas Tech ranked in terms of some of the commitments. You got ESPN ranking Felix Ojo top 20. 247 Sports, we mentioned them. They're the highest on him, sixth overall. While Rivals and On 3 rank Felix Ojo as the 11th best player, but the number one overall player in the state. Chase Campbell, top 150 player. Bryce Gilmore, top 175. You've got Martin in the top 350 as well when you look at strictly Rivals. Now, there's in the interesting aspect of this, you go down to Donovan Webb. He is ranked as a 4-star on 247 Sports, but none of the other sites have him as a 4-star. It's interesting to see how these sites do that. But nonetheless, I did want to say this. When you look at this recruiting class, 2026, you can see that they really pinpointed certain aspects of things, right? In terms of, I really like what they did from the Felix Ojo perspective. I mean, who wouldn't, right? He's a 5-star guy. But I like it in the sense that you go out and you add more guys around him on the offensive line, most notably Bryce Gilmore. You look at what they're doing in the class of 2027. They obviously had Cooper Hackett. He flipped to Oklahoma. That's unfortunate, but you're going after other guys on the offensive line or defensive line that are making, potentially huge impacts early on if they're the Red Raiders. So I really like the way that they're going about high school recruiting if you're Texas Tech. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the guy that I know all of y'all want the latest on, and it's Jalen Brewster. You see him on your screen right there. This guy is a stud, in my opinion. 6'3", 302 from Cedar Hill, the 9th overall player in the class of 2027, according to 247 Composite. You may be wondering, RC, why is he ranked as a 5-star on their composite, but not a 5-star when it comes to their normal ranking? Well, 247 Sports, a little weird. They don't rank juniors. They don't give any juniors 5 stars. Until you're a senior, that's when you can get your 5th star on 247. So it's a little weird, but I promise you this. Once he becomes a senior, Jalen Brewster will get that 5th star strictly on 247 Sports, but all the other sites rank him as a top 10 overall player in the class of 2027. You see it on your screen right there, commitment watch. He is set to announce his commitment on Saturday, October 4th. And, well, we've got this graphic from Hayes Fawcett over on On3 and Rivals. He has this. These are some of the teams that, well, are still in the mix for the 5-star defensive lineman from Cedar Hill. You see it. Oregon, Texas A&M, Indiana, LSU, SMU, Ohio State, Oklahoma, your Red Raiders, the Trojans of USC, and the Longhorns. Well, the interesting part, as I leave this on your screen for a minute, is you're seeing a lot of teams try and make a valiant last-ditch effort, it feels like, in terms of landing the commitment of Jalen Brewster, and rightfully so, right? We're talking about a top 10 overall player, an impactful defensive lineman, a guy that can play inside or outside on the defensive line and make an immediate impact as a true freshman for all of these programs, regardless of what their stature are. You have a guy that really, truly reminds me of a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who at the NFL level has played on the outside and been one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL, but he could also go inside and play on the interior of the defensive line. I think Jalen Brewster can do both and do so at a very, very high level. The team that has made the most noise in terms of a last-ditch effort to try and land his commitment has been Oregon. I've seen a lot in terms of Dan Lanning and other coaches posting that, hey, happy birthday, running out of the tunnel up there in Eugene before their game, and even up in Happy Valley where they beat Penn State in a whiteout. Hell of a win for Oregon, I must admit. But Ohio State is going after him heavy. So is Indiana. But Texas Tech, as it stands right now, is the favorite, according to Rivals Steve Wiltfong and Sam Spiegelman, in terms of logging their expert predictions. Now, this was a while ago. It was on September 22nd, but it sounds like as of right now, this is where they're currently still standing, and they're putting their boots in the ground and kind of digging in a little bit, are Sam and Steve, in terms of this is where they think Jalen Brewster does commit to on October 4th. Now, the time is not known in terms of when his commitment will be announced. As always, we'll keep you updated here on the Red and Black Report and have an instant reaction video for you guys if he does, in fact, commit to Texas Tech. But this is a guy, if he were to commit to Texas Tech, and we've talked about it here on the channel a couple times, but just to reiterate it, you think about what Texas Tech already has in the class of 2027, okay? LaDainian Guyton, a guy that may reclassify to the class of 2026, but at the time of this recording, he is in the class of 2027. He is the #1 overall defensive player in the class of 2027. Then you've got a guy in Adrian Redmond that wouldn't surprise me if he gets close to that 5-star status by the time that class wraps up and he does inevitably end up on a college campus. Would not surprise me at all. So then you add another guy potentially in Jalen Brewster. Okay, a top 10 overall player, arguably the best defensive lineman in the entire 2027 class. You add 3 impact players on the defensive line early on in that class to really get things going. That's going to really create a ripple effect, and not even a ripple effect, a full-blown wave into the class of 2027, because players are going to want to play with that level of talent, whether it's LaDainian Guyton or Jalen Brewster. There are other sizable names that Texas Tech is targeting in the class of 2027, and landing a guy like Jalen Brewster would allow Texas Tech the ammo to go, hey, we have this commitment. You're going to want to play with a guy like this, even if it's on the opposite side of the football, because Jalen Brewster, LaDainian Guyton, Adrian Redmond, those type of players are going to give you a better chance to succeed as an overall team, right? And so you've been linked to guys like 5-star quarterback Kavian Bryant. He's still in the mix for Texas Tech. In fact, Steve Wiltfong and Sam Spiegelman of Rivals have actually put in their expert prediction for Texas Tech to land those guys. So, or to land him, I should say. Texas Tech's in a good spot. Hopefully they land the commitment of Jalen Brewster, but as always, we will keep you updated here on the Red and Black Report, and hopefully he doesn't commit during the Houston game. That would be a full-blown nightmare, but also not a nightmare at all because you would land a top 10 overall player in the class of 2027. So again, from a 2026 perspective, Felix Ojo now a top 6 overall player in that class, the guy that everyone touted as a $5.2 million man guaranteed. Technically not right. It's a little under 3. I believe it's 2.7 is guaranteed with incentives that could build to 5.2 depending on rev share and other aspects in NIL. But you land him. He's a top 10 overall player. You land Bryce Gilmore in terms of his decommitment from Arkansas. You land his commitment. He is a guy that is a top 10 overall offensive lineman, offensive tackle to be specific, in the class of 2026. And your team ranking for 2026 is 23rd overall, both on 247 and on On3, the second best in the Big 12, only behind the Cougars of BYU. And in the 2027 class, the name to monitor as of right now, as a quick recap for the video, is Jalen Brewster, who is set to commit on Saturday, October 4th. Texas Tech is presumably the favorite as of right now. We know things can change when it comes to commitments in the high school ranks, as we've all seen before, but it is thought to be Texas Tech is the favorite to land his commitment on Saturday, October 4th, the day that the Red Raiders hopefully secure a win down in H-Town against the undefeated Houston Cougars. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Appreciate y'all tuning in. As always, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 13K, about 200 away. I think we can do it before basketball season. I truly do. We had more viewers in, September in terms of new viewers than we've ever had before. It was over 10,500 new viewers here on the channel. Appreciate y'all on that front. And we've got people coming back too. When it comes to watching the videos, we had over 17,000 viewers returning. Okay, so that means you've watched at least one video for the past 3 months. Come join the RBR squad. It's the largest Texas Tech independent YouTube channel here, beating the competitors by quite a bit, but we don't mean to brag here. We're just excited to bring you entertaining, informative content here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube in the Red and Black Report. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. I'm RC Maxfield reminding you, as always, stay safe and Wreck 'em Tech.